songa mbere. Yubogera bogere. Uganda, songa mbere. Thank you very much.
In his own words, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of Uganda, said, "Many people have been underestimating, underrating and minimizing the achievements of our struggle for many years of devoted, sacrificial and resilient efforts. Many young people, especially those who were born after 1980, have been misguided to minimize these achievements because they are not listed but rather hear from them in words. Instead of promoting values and increasing business, the leaders were busy promoting sectarianism based on tribes and religion. The diversity we have as a country should be the great asset to advance our socio, political and economic needs. I am happy that this book has come up to show the world what the NRM Revolution, whose struggles goes back to the early 1960s, has achieved for this country. This has been after a lot of sacrifice. I urge Ugandans to read and watch and see where we came from, where we are, and where we are going. For God and my country." Uganda, geographically located on the eastern side of Africa, approximately covering 241,559 square kilometers. The name emanates from the colonial 1900 Buganda Agreement, when they removed letter B and forced all other existing kingdoms, chiefdoms and other areas that were not centralized. They divided communities and marked out boundaries following certain geographical features.
Uganda is a blessed country. And when you open that book of the achievements of the NRM Revolution, you will see what we started with, that Churchill said about Uganda. Just that's why they called it the Pearl of Africa.
The 35 years of the NRM government has brought about peace, security and stability of Uganda that has enabled all these achievements to be made. Without peace, without security, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to get engaged in, it cannot be done. Once the peace is disrupted, then everything, even your rights, everything gets disrupted.
Uganda is a country which had a lot of problems. Top of the list was the stealing of lives of human beings. People are being slaughtered like chicken. Destroying the economy, destroying the animals in the national parks through poaching by soldiers, looting the people on the highways by soldiers. All these were stopped. They were stopped by the NRM.
When Amin came on the scene, we started trying to organize here internally. I was contacting by then Museveni was he went to Nairobi, he was doing the contact in Dar es Salaam and the rest. Me, I was here. That's what I was doing.
In the new Africa, one more independent country, the state of Uganda.
Uganda got her independence from the British on 9th of October 1962. This came after protracted negotiations at Lancaster House, which were attended by colonial administrators in Uganda and Uganda's representatives.
The 4th Battalion King's African Rifles becomes the 1st Battalion Uganda Rifles. And to replace the Union Jack, the black, gold and red flag of the new young state, Uganda is born again, free and independent.
Since independence, the baby nation Uganda faced extractive political and economic systems with the renowned, most famous regime of Idi Amin. The reign of terror started with many prominent people disappearing without trace, while others were being killed in cold blood.
The 24th of May, that is when the whole thing came. First, very early in the morning, the army invaded the palace. They arrested people there. The king was inside there, Mutesa was in the palace there. Because now he was no longer president, so he was in his palace in Mengo here. They arrested the princes, they arrested the princes, they arrested the Nabagarika, all these, the big people were arrested and taken to Rwenzira.
I want to see that the whole Kampala street is not full of Indians. It must be proper black, and administration in those shops is run by the Ugandans. I think they will be sitting like they are sitting on the fire. I will tell you this. You just wait after 3 months.
What will you do to them?
Okay, you will see.
At that time, Asians were really dominating the economic activities here. So factories closed, shops closed, things were no longer coming. These people had gone with all the information. The economy really went on its toes, on its knees.
Before Amin, Mr. Yoweri Museveni was working in the office of the president in Obote's government. Obote's regime was characterized by violation of human rights and significant fall of Uganda's economy. Mr. Yoweri Museveni had declared that if the elections were rigged, he would fight the government. True to his word, on 6th February 1981, Mr. Museveni went to the bush along with 26 other armed colleagues plus 15 other who were unarmed and started liberation war against the government in Luwero Triangle.
I want the world to understand this. The people of Uganda, the population, did not start violence. I was not a soldier, I was an intellectual. Why did I become a soldier? I became a soldier to defend myself and my people against state-inspired violence.
One given time, there came a lot full of soldiers. And then when they reached Matuga Trading Center, they scattered. In scattering, they started shooting whoever they could come across. And I said, what is all this? So there was no freedom.
When Amin attacked Kagera, and then the Tanzanians now started fighting back. So I felt that the actions of Amin's soldiers should really stop. And then that's when I joined the Liberation War.
Museveni went to the bush through Kabamba. I went to the bush through Eastern. But then later on, I joined Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, now the president, through Matuga, after they had come back, because I was left here to coordinate the soldiers who were, of course, going to be trapped as those suspects who were supporters of Museveni, especially the Fronasa group.
In 81, when Museveni left for attack at Kabamba, he sent me a message. He had gone and had started, so that we should mobilize. Again, I started mobilizing here for logistics.
On January 21st, 1986, Museveni ordered the Liberation Army to march to Kampala and overthrew Okello's government. Tito Okello and his UNLA army were grossly indisciplined and thoroughly discouraged. They couldn't match the skills of the NRA. They were disintegrated within a week of fighting. The capital city was captured on the 25th of January 1986. Museveni sworn in as Uganda's president on the 29th of January 1986.
And that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
By the time we captured Kampala, Kampala was just, I think, 5 hills. It was Kororo, Rubaga, Namirembe, and where is Makerere, and Nakasiru. I had a detach at Mukwano industry there. It was a bush. These criminals who used to escape there, it to hide there and kill people.
Rebuilding the armed forces. One of the greatest achievements of the NRM Revolution has been the creation of a pro-people armed force on which all the other achievements, political, economic and social and other progress have deepened. The restoration of confidence and protection of life and property of the people of Uganda and even the region has created great dividends and opened opportunities.
One of the greatest achievements of the national resistance movement has been the creation of a pro-people army, creation of ideas that have been protecting the interests of the public to ensure that peace is maintained everywhere up to now. How come that all the refugees from all these unstable neighbors in our region come to Uganda, where they find a home, where there is, which is their safe haven? How come that Uganda has one of the highest numbers of refugees? That is because there is peace, there is security, there is stability, there is good human relations, there is Pan-African spirit, and these are all achievements of the national resistance movement revolution.
We've had many military forces before, dating from our pre-colonial time. We had tribal armies here, and their agenda was to push tribal chauvinism. We had the Abamboa for Uganda, we had the Abalusura for Bunyoro, we had, I think, Enyana or Emitu for Akole, etc., etc. We were colonized by the British, and they recruited some of our people to form proxy armies. For East Africa, it was the King's African Rifles. When they went in haste, elements of the KAR formed the officer corps of the post-independent Uganda First Army, in the names of Uganda Army. Still good name, but anything but Uganda. The army, which is supposed to guard the country, protect its territorial borders, ended up being a monster. That's when we first had a glimpse of state-inspired violence. The army ran amok, killing people, many of them prominent people.
A soldier could pick you up anywhere and finish you off. I have a good case. There was one gentleman whose name, for security reason, I will not mention. He had gone to a bar with his girlfriend, and this one soldier came and said, "Why do you have that beautiful girlfriend?" He was picked. Up to now, he has never appeared. We don't know. If you put up a little nice house, then some soldiers will say, where do you get money from? You must be a Muyekera. You must be a guerrilla. You are getting money from Tanzania. That day, the house either will be bombed or the owner of the house will be taken, and that will be taken at the end of it.
In the bush, NRA High Commander was chairmaned by Yoweri Museveni, who was also Commander-in-Chief. The other members were Eria Kategaya, who was in charge of political and diplomatic affairs; Ahmed Seguya, who was the first overall commander but died in 1981. The late Sam Magara became the second overall commander but also died in 1982. Sam Magala was succeeded by Eli Tumwine, Salim Saleh, Caleb Akandwanaho, the late Fred Rubereza, David Tunyefunza, the late Tadeo Kanyankole, Matayo Charigonza, Emi Echaruhanga, the late Mutebi, and Kahinda Otafire.
UPDF has undergone many stages in its evolution until now, including the name, of course. It's now a quadru service force, has 4 services. Initially it started as a single service. It was only the army, or in simple terms, if I can unpack it, it was only the land forces element. Now we have 4 services. We have the Air Force as a distinct service, we have the Reserve Forces, we have the Special Forces Command, so we have 4 services. The Army or Land Forces, the Air Force, the Special Forces Command, the Reserve Forces, the 4 services. It's, of course, you know the leadership hierarchy, Commander-in-Chief by the Constitution, the President.
The success of NRA or UPDF has basically been due to the able leadership under the Commander-in-Chief, who has at all times appointed the most competent commanders of the time. These include Ahmed Seguia, Colonel Sam Magara, General Eli Tumwine, General Caleb Akandanwaho, Salim Saleh, Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, General JJ Odong, Major General James Kazini, General Arunda Nyakairima, General Edward Katumba Wamala, and General David Muhozi.
You know, discipline was our major and the strongest support weapon we had in the bush.
What did we do? One, of course, we ensured that when we go out for recruitment, we recruit, first of all, people who have been saved by the community, by the public, by the people from within themselves. We don't, and that's why you have the requirement that for anyone to be recommended for recruitment, you must have a recommendation from the local council one. So that already, at the point of entry, there is that pro-people element. A lot of that is injected in during the training, where we emphasize that you're a servant of the people, you're serving the people.
The UPDF has not only developed in only those 4, but it has also been engaged in production. The National Enterprise Corporation is contributing quite a lot, not only to industry, but the development of our capacity to manage our own affairs in defense and other sectors. The construction brigade, our engineering brigade that was created, which is going to help in many aspects, not only the railway, but in many aspects of construction of our country. And the Operation Wealth Creation, where the UPDF has been participating together with the NADIs, is another contribution to the development of Uganda.
The concept was bring together, first understand the architecture of the development process, who is doing what, where. And in the civilian economics, it doesn't apply. Everybody, we found everybody in their own silos. Research in its own silo, input supplies on its own silo, local government. So we tried to give them a concept that could reorganize the whole development process, especially the rural development. And it has taken time, but it is beginning to shape up now.
The NRM developed a liberation manifesto, which they called a 10 points program. These included restoring real democracy, security, consolidation of national unity and elimination of all forms of sectarianism, defending and consolidating of national independence, building an independent, integrated and self-sustaining national economy, restoration and improvement of social services and the rehabilitation of the war-ravaged areas, elimination of corruption and misuse of power, redressing errors that have resulted into dislocation of sections of the population and improvement of others, where service and development was affected by the previous bad regimes, cooperation with other African countries in defending human and domestic rights of our brothers in other parts of Africa, following an economic strategy of mixed economy, These were later expanded to 15 after a national-wide survey in preparation for the aspects that needed long-term planning, also addressing the issue of continuous growth and development. These included financing public infrastructure using internal borrowing and creating employment in the country, human resource development, capacity building in technical and public service sectors, preservation and development of our culture, consolidation of programs which are responsible to gender and marginalized groups, environmental protection and management. Rebuilding the nation.
Colonial masters were here for 78 years by the time they left in 1962. How much tarmac did they leave behind? How much? Because you hear people talking about during those days. How many universities did they leave? One. How many schools did they leave behind? You had only the likes of Livelihood, Mwiri, very few of them.
The first 10 years of the NRM government, I was a student, but I was able to see and I have read what transpired. It started with rehabilitating the economy. There was a ministry called Ministry of Rehabilitation, largely trying to put back in place what had been destroyed. Gradually, they started opening up roads, they started opening up industries, but it was still minimal.
In some cases, including my own case, we used to use pawpaw leaves for washing. You get pawpaw leaves, you crush them, and you wash. No sugar, toothpaste, a new piece of textile. You had only to do it to get it from Nairobi. If you go to your friend who is going to Nairobi, you normally would say, please bring me one cake of rice oil. That's the situation which you are. The economy was absolutely down.
Between 1971 and 1980, it declined by minus 2.9%. Between 1986 and 2015, the economy grew at an annual average rate of 6.9%, 6.92, while per capita income grew at an annual average rate of 3.6% over the same period. No European country, not even the United States, except West Germany, between 1950 and 1980, which was able to do 3.8%, has grown its per capita income at the same rate as Uganda over a period of 3 decades. When I started the Uganda Manufacturers Association with the late James Murwana, we had 80 factories only. We are now talking of 5,000 factories. We have been able to create jobs, as you saw those people working there. Those are not Chinese, they are not Indian, they are Ugandan. Those are your children working there in those factories. We reject tribalism. We support the integration of East Africa to build a common market of East Africa and of Africa, and even to work for the Federation of East Africa, because that's where the future is. Following the footsteps of our elders whom you see there.
Tutimize na malengo yetu, jumuiya yetu sote
From 1962, Presidents Obote and Amin combined tarmacked only 1,000 kilometers with second-hand tarmac or bitumen.
The infrastructure was down. I remember the first time I came from Ushenyi coming to Kampala in 1987. In 1986. That was around July. It took me more than 12 hours from Bushenyi to Kampala.
What has changed in terms of the road network, for example? By 1986, of the 2,000 kilometers of roads which were paved, only 350 kilometers were motorable. The others were in solid state. 350 kilometers were good in motorable condition. Today, we have 5,380 kilometers of tarmac motorable road that you can wake up in the morning at one side, at one border of Uganda, and by the evening at the other end of the border. You can start from Welegu in the morning, and by the evening you're in Chanika. We have a number of ferries crossing, like on Choga, the Zengebes, the Wat. Recently we commissioned the ferry to Buvuma. We have Kalangala ferries here which are working.
Today will go down in history is the day when Uganda Airlines took a giant step forward in actualizing your vision for the rebirth of the national airline. So for us, in terms of stages, we see the airline as a promise kept. The government said they would start, and the airline started on time. And government said they would provide the funds that are required to pay for the aircraft. Again, the aircraft were ordered and the planes arrived on time and on budget. So the airline is there to brand Uganda, which is to market it worldwide. And that's why you see a very strong brand which is centered on the flag of Uganda on delivery of the aircraft. What contribution will it bring? The first one is the import substitution that we talked about, which is 500 million was going out of this economy, is now staying and being reinvested in. That is the first one. Secondly, the airline creates employment in the country. Aviation, to which Ugandans were not participating for over a period of 18 years. And now we have got 250 people being employed. And if you multiply that with the families and dependents, it's a huge impact to the economy that you are looking at.
There has been improved access to health facilities over time. By 1986, access to health centers was 40% for people living in urban centers and 1.9% of the rural habitants. It has increased since 1986 from 40% to 87% in the urban areas, while rural areas at 12%. Life expectancy has increased from 41 to 64 years for men by 2019, while 43 to 65 for women. Infant mortality has reduced from 188 per live birth in 1986 to 76 by 2010, and it moved further down since then. One of the sectors that bring about socio-economic transformation of society is education. The need for education was identified and the government took it up to provide it. This was realized after 70% of Ugandans not having access to education. The NRM government took the initiative and started universal education at different levels. By 1986, Uganda had only one university, which was Makerere University. Its capacity to take many students was being curtailed by lack of funds. As a result, only 1,800 could be admitted. All the rest who qualified had to either join other institutes of learning or drop out. Universities have since increased tremendously to cater for Uganda's education needs. After the swearing-in of His Excellency the President of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, on the 29th day of January 1986, on the stairs of the Parliament, he appointed the first cabinet to work with. This was charged to restoring hope to Ugandans by implementing the 10 Points program.
Nobody should think that what is happening today, or what has been happening in the last few days, is a mere change of guards. Because in Africa we have seen so much change that change has become meaningless.
There are very many elements of that change. The first one was to go from the politics of identity to the politics of interests. What are your legitimate interests? Like prosperity. We want all our families to be prosperous. They need to sell their products, to sell their services. So, the politics should be around organizing for them infrastructure, markets, so that they sell their products and become prosperous. That's what politics should be about, not about this religion, that tribe. So that was one of the fundamental changes. It's really good to have politics based on the popular will of the people. Whether the popular will is expressed through parties or through what they call proportional representation, that's a detail. But the fundamental basis is that the people should elect their governments at regular intervals. Political future of Uganda is good because we solved all the issues in the past when we gave power to the people.
The president has at all times been helped by eminent Ugandans that serve as vice presidents since 1986. These include Honorable Edward Kiwanuka II, serving from 2011 to date, Dr. Gilbert Bukenya, who served from 2003 to 2011, Dr. Specioza Wandira Kaziwe, who served from 1994 to 2003, and lastly, His Excellency Dr. Samson Chiseka, who served from 1991 to 1994. The President has also appointed able Prime Ministers to assist him manage the implementation of government activities. The following have served since 1986. Right Honorable Ruhakana Rugunda, from 2014 to date. Right Honorable John Patrick Amama Mbabazi, from 2011 to 2014. Right Honorable Professor Apollon Sibambi, from 1999 to 2011. Right Honorable Chintu Musoke, from 1994 to 1999. Right Honorable George Cosmas Adiebo, from 1991 to 1994. Right Honorable Dr. Samson Chiseka, from 1986 to 1991.
Wish I could see, continually see, our beautiful country Uganda, of milk and honey, full of fresh water, full of fresh air, fauna and flora, full of sunshine, full of sunshine.
When you run a government that is constitutional, that is law-abiding, every person is free to live in that country and to have the confidence to know that they won't be intimidated. Nobody is above the law. Whoever does anything wrong will answer to the law. And Uganda therefore became a free country and really modern and democratic.
We have recovered. We have now gone into a mode of development.
Currently, the goal of government is to move from the peasant level, where most of our farmers are, to an industrialized country. Yes, to move to a middle income country. We are doing that by increasing productivity and increasing the exports and increasing the what we process and put on the market.
For milk, we have now moved from 200,000 liters, the whole of Uganda. Now we are talking about 2.5 billion liters of milk. We have maize. The whole of Uganda will not produce 500,000 bags. Now we are about 5 or 6 or 7 million bags. The animal sector, we have now moved to 15 million heads of cattle across the country, from about 5 in 1986. We have the poultry industry. That one was negative. Now we have about 60 million bags. We have moved really. So the agriculture sector suffered during the bad times of those dictators and the wars. It was not spared. But during this time of NRM, we are really moving very fast.
One of the special interest groups that have realized maximum benefits are the women. Before NRM, women struggled doubly hard to obtain any participatory role in the treasures and benefits bestowed upon human beings by divine generosity irrespective of sex. The NRM government ended this by putting them at the forefront in all government activities and private sector. President Yoweri Museveni appointed Dr. Specioza Wanderakaziwe as the first woman vice president in the history of Uganda. Since 2011, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga has been holding the third highest office of Speaker of the Parliament, having served as a Deputy Speaker for 10 years.
We have at least 33% of the members of Parliament are women, and in Cabinet 35% are women. And yes, we do have a big number of women leaders in leading organizations of government and departments, and it is our government's policy really to promote women's leadership, and it is happening.
Well, this journey of the NRM Revolution has been a steady, resilient, continuous revolution that has been guided by the NRM ideology, deliberately following that ideology that has, right from the beginning, guided us, right from when we started the Bush War in 1981, has been that ideology that His Excellency the President has really been explaining very well. And it's that ideology that has been deliberately followed and has brought us this far.
An ideology is what we call in philosophy an ism, ISM. Remember, communism, conservatism. You remember that word, ism. If parties are not based on ism, on ideas, and are based on individuals, they will not develop.
The NRM, when we were in the bush, had one line, the mass line, the line of the people, where political actors act only in the interest of the people, not in the interest of anything else, not in the interest of the elite, not in the interest of foreigners, not in the interest of this group or that or that elite group, but in the interest of the people, the ordinary people. That's what we call the mass line. the mass line. You can call it the line of the people's interest.
NRM ideology.
To prosperity. Live your dream and enjoy your life. Live your dream to
The success of NRM is attributed to its vision and mission. The vision is having a free, democratic, secure, united, modern, devolved, industrial and prosperous Uganda within a federated and prosperous Africa, while the mission is to transform Uganda from a subsistence, peasant-based pre-industrial society into a modern, prosperous and industrialized society that is united, democratic and secure in a pan-African framework.
rise and shine. If you are down, please rise and shine. Don't keep down, people, rise and shine. Live your dream.
There were a number of rebellions in the country, and the last rebellion was by Joseph Kony. When that one ended, Uganda has been at the fastest pace in terms of development.
Peace and stability is sustained if the institution of the police is led by competent leaders. The police force has also maintained law and order. These have been supplemented by the restoration of the LDU to step on the high crime rate of gunshots that emerged in early 2017.
You can say that since 1986, the NRM government found 3,000 officers, and we are now 45,000. And I believe that within a period of about, because we are now recruiting, we are undergoing a recruitment exercise, within a year we shall be 50,000. The police started in 1906. So from 1906 to 1986, those are 80 years, Uganda police had never had headquarters. Now we are in our headquarters and we are expanding. If you move here, you will see a huge accommodation block that is going to accommodate more than 4,000. So it has 4,000 apartments. Now, as I speak, the whole of Kampala is on the grid. We can be able to see what goes on in here. And the monitoring center, the command center is just right in front of us here, there. It is finished, it is fully fledged. Now, we are expanding to highways. We are also expanding to other cities and other towns in Uganda. So, community policing cannot stand on its own. Community policing must move hand in hand with ideological clarity. And that, we didn't have it before 1986. No, it is this government that brought this.
The prison services have also complemented by keeping custody of wrong elements and suspects.
By 1986, I think up to around 1890, Uganda Prison Service was the lead agency in abuse of rights. But I can assure you, for the last 10 or so years, yes, we have those elements in like others, but you cannot be looking for the first, second, up to 5 in abuse of human rights and find there Uganda Prison Service. But this has been a systematic effort by the leadership to fight this. We are the first beneficiaries of training, and we are making sure that in our leadership is being emphasized. By 1986, the reoffending rate was about 53. In other words, if you took to prison 100 convicted prisoners, when they come out, 53 would commit other crimes and go back to prison. Right now, it is ranging between 17 and 20. That means that every 100 prisoners that go through the system of rehabilitation, only between 17 and 20 get back to prison. That means our performance is at 80%.
Kampala expansion. In 1986, Kampala was only ending at Nakawa on the eastern side, Najanankumbi on the south, Busega on the west, and Kawempe on the north. One would justly say that it is made up of 7 hills of Nakasero, Kololo, Lubaga, Mengo, Chibuli, Makerere, Molago, and Nakuru. In 2010, Kampala Capital City was upgraded to an authority remarked Kampala Capital City Authority and made itself accountable organ of the government with the first executive director, Mrs. Jennifer Mosisi. Kampala greatly transformed into a clean city.
Electricity. There was the dam at Jinja, the own force, and the generation of power was about 280 megawatts. As of now, we are talking of over 2,000 megawatts of electricity in Uganda. Jinja was expanded. To add on Chira, it's into two. There is Bujagari, there is Agago, there is Karuma, Isimba. All those have added on to electricity.
Tax collection, I think they were collecting about 7 billion, something like shillings by that time. Now here, we are collecting about 20 trillion now.
In 1986, Uganda had 33 districts. Since then, 79 districts have been created. The purpose was to bring services nearer to the people and to make leaders accountable to their people. The NRM has put in place a youth livelihood program. The Youth Livelihood Program is a rolling government of Uganda program targeting the poor and unemployed youth in all districts of Uganda.
Industrialization. If you want to know what is going as of now, visit some of the supermarkets. I recently found there are refrigerators made in Uganda. There are cookers made in Uganda, both for gas and electricity. There are TVs that are made in Uganda, and Uganda is already exporting mobile phones. So in terms of manufacturing, you need to visit the industrial areas we have in Uganda. There are many industrial parks, and you see what is being manufactured. Largely essential goods are now available in Uganda. Before 1986, nothing was manufactured in Uganda. But at present, so many goods are manufactured in Uganda to the extent that we can now manufacture a vehicle, although it's not yet put to commercial use. You know, there is a process of incubation. You must have the prototype first, then you invest in its mass production.
There was virtually no tourists coming to Uganda by 1986. This has changed to over 1,505,669 tourists visiting the national parks in Uganda. By 2019, tourism contributed 1 trillion shillings on Uganda's economy. In 2019, tourism earned 45 billion shillings of revenue. The NRM has created a conducive environment that has enabled the construction of hotels. This has boosted the tourism sector as secure accommodation in Uganda is no longer a problem.
Tourism was coming to about 10% of the GDP. That is about almost $2 billion. $2 billion, the contribution to the GDP. That was before COVID. And our target was 4 million visitors by 2021. That was our target. And we're going, our graph, the tourism graph is actually still climbing. Our target by 2021 was 4 million visitors. By the time we went to COVID, we had hit 2 million visitors in Uganda. And the numbers were rising each and every day. Each and every day. Of course, with COVID, these numbers are no more. Yes. But of course, with after COVID, we have put up measures. The government has really now tried to help us to improve our tourism roads. If you check in this year's budget, we put over 200 billion to about 200 billion shillings in the improvement of the tourism roads. We are going to improve all the tourism roads.
those with Maram, because we cannot put tarmac everywhere. National parks, we don't need to put tarmac in the national park. We shall keep them natural but well graveled roads so that people can be able to enjoy the ride in this area.
Like any other institution, challenges are inevitable, as performance can never be 100%. The NRM Revolution has experienced a few challenges that are not yet fully resolved.
Here in Uganda, we had a number of tests. We started with the floods. People were worried that the water could destroy the power stations along the Nile. Then we had the floating islands caused by the high water. Again, relying on our internal means, we were able to scoop out. Then we had the landslides in the mountain areas. Then we had the locusts in Karamoja. But for us, we were ready, and we killed all the locusts. Then came COVID.
The day the world